Hey girls, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Christina and thank you so much for tuning into today's video. So this video is the second part to the last video that I made. If you haven't watched that, I'll leave that down below. That way you can go and watch it. It's about my go-to brushes and how I clean them. And then in today's video, we'll be learning how to blend. So before we start, I just want to say that I am a visual person. You can tell me something all day long, but if I don't see it being done, then it won't process in my mind. But I know everyone is different. I'm gonna try as best as I can to cater to everyone who learns differently, visually, hearing, and all that good stuff. But sometimes I don't really know how to explain things. To me, this stuff is simple already, but again, I've been doing it for years. Just bear with me. I'm gonna try my best. But one thing that I want to stress is just practice, 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 practice. I wasn't good at it when I first started. I'm pretty sure nobody just picks up a makeup brush and automatically knows how to do eyeshadow. No, it doesn't really work that way. You do have to practice and just take your time. I don't sit down and do this whole look in 15-20 minutes. What you guys see, it takes way longer than that. I encourage you guys to pick up a makeup brush and try to blend with me as I do it in this video. Practice, 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 and I promise you it won't fail you. You'll be a pro blender before you know it. So before we get started with today's video, I just want to say please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Help me get to 300. Thank you guys so much for 270 something subscribers. I love you all who support me. It literally means the world to me. You guys are just awesome, really. So thank you so much, and let's go ahead and get into this video. Alright guys, so I already have one eye done as always, and then we're going to be doing this side on camera, so I'm going to zoom you guys in. Okay, so I'm going to start by priming my eye. I'm going to use some Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I'm using the shades Light Medium and Fair Beige, and I'll explain why in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Light Medium Honey. Just going to put that mainly underneath my eyebrow. My eyebrows already are cleaned up, but since I've done this eye, the concealer has dried, and I like to work with a wet base over here. And then I'm going to use that same e.l.f. concealer brush that I mentioned in my last video to just distribute the concealer all over the lid. So this is what I use as primer, guys. That was actually a question that one of you DM'd me, what I thought was a good primer. And I don't use anything that's like specifically eyeshadow primer. I used to use the Soft Ochre Paint Pot, and then before that I used the Urban Decay Primer Potion. But the Primer Potion, honestly, I didn't really like it. I thought it sucked. And the Soft Ochre, it was just like too thick, so I didn't really like that either. But I just use this concealer, and I mean, it works for me. And then I'm going to take some of the Fair Beige shade and apply that over top of the Light Medium Honey. Just because we are working with some colors today, I like to have a lighter base, because sometimes when I use like my more yellowy concealers that are more true to my skin tone, it can mix with the eyeshadows and then just create an ugly, funky color. So that was another question that you guys asked me. How do I keep my colors from running together and creating like another nasty color? And that's one thing that I could suggest that is maybe causing those colors to create weird colors. I would recommend just using a lighter base. That way your colors have something brighter to sit on and pop more. Alright guys, so the very first color that we're going to be using is from ColourPop. This is actually an eyeshadow that I got a really long time ago. It's just a single shadow. It's called 143. It's this nice pretty purple. And I'm going to begin to build that color up with my Morphe S27 brush. I also talked about this in my last video. But then this little thing is just like these little sticky divider tabs that I got from the dollar store. I just like to put that way, like I don't have to go and clean it up. It's already like cleaned up, you know, when I take it off. And I'm first going to just tap this. And then as I just start to build up the color, I'm just going to start blending the edges. So I like to blend in circular motions. So with my hand, I'm just making like a little circle. I feel like this motion is key, and windshield wipers, but mainly these little circles right here. Instead of having my brush directly like this, I kind of like to face the brush upwards. If I just have it like this, then that color is going to come way too far up and I'm not going to like that. So yeah, I just like to face the brush upwards. That way I can see like how high I'm bringing it. I have more control this way of the color. Another question that you guys asked me was, how do I know when to stop blending? So several people actually asked me this, and a couple people actually meant it like in a different way. First person that asked me this was asking like how do I know when to stop blending when it comes to like going up? How far away do I stop from the eyebrow? And honestly, I feel like that's just personal preference. Oh, by the way, I'm not taking this color all the way into the inner corner because I don't know if you can tell, but we're doing like a purple to pink gradient in there. It used to be, you know, really frowned on to go like all the way up to your eyebrow, but nowadays you see beautiful like masterpieces, and the look and the eyeshadow is literally like blended into the eyebrow, but it's so seamless, so pretty. I would say as long as you can get like a nice pretty blend, then it doesn't really matter how high you bring it up. It's literally up to you. I personally don't like to bring it like all the way up to my eyebrow, but I just feel like the look does look a lot more completed and like a lot better, a lot more finished if you do bring it, you know, like a little close to your eyebrow. I used to keep my eyeshadow down like real low, probably like right here, literally. I wouldn't go any higher, and it just kind of, one, makes my eyes look smaller, and your makeup just looks unfinished, and it looks a lot better and like polished and clean. If you just bring it up a little bit higher, you can see, you know, your work more, and it's prettier that way to me, in my opinion. When I'm doing cut creases especially, I do like to bring the eyeshadow like higher than where my eye crease is, and that's what I feel like can be confusing to some people, because like my crease technically is this thing right here. Like that is my crease. That is where my eye crease is. But when I'm going for a cut crease look, the purpose of a cut crease is to create a brand new crease to enhance the eye. It's an illusion to make your eye look like it's bigger or rounder or whatever kind of shape you're doing your cut crease. The point of a cut crease is to give that illusion. So if you're just going right over your natural cut crease, you're not really giving that illusion. Therefore, again, the look is just going to look unfinished and not as clean, not as polished as if you were to create a brand new crease and come up higher than where your crease naturally is. And I feel like a lot of people are scared to do that, especially if you're not used to wearing makeup like this every single day. You just kind of have to work up to it. You guys, practice makes perfect. If you are ever thinking like, oh, you know, that wouldn't look good on me, just try it out and see. You know, you never know what you're gonna like. I remember, you know, seeing like these crazy cut creases on girls and being like, oh no, you know, like I'm not gonna go that dramatic. Never, ever, ever. But when you see it on yourself for like the first time, I don't know, you just kind of fall in love, you know, because it's something you've never seen on your eye before, and like it literally just transforms your eye. And once I get to cutting the crease, I'm going to show you guys, like I'm going to cut my natural crease. That way you can see like the huge difference. So for my pink shadow, I'm going to be dipping into my, I almost just whacked myself, into my Morphe 39A palette. And I'm going to be using this shade right here. I'm going to be picking that up on a Morphe S12. Again, this is another brush that I mentioned in my last video. And same thing, I'm just going to start by tapping because it's still wet over here. This is such a pretty pink. If you guys have hooded eyes, a good way to like ensure that you're bringing up the eyeshadow high enough is to look down into the mirror, and where you see like the little roundness in your eye, that's where you want to bring the eyeshadow, because my cut crease is going to sit like right on top of, because that's where I want to cut my new crease. And if I don't bring the eyeshadow up high enough, then my cut crease is just going to cover all the work that I did. And if that happens, like there'll be no shadow peeking through the cut crease. So it'll just look, again, unfinished, not clean. So just make sure that you're bringing it up high enough for the shadow to peek through after you've cut your crease. So for those of you who ask me how I use multiple colors without making them become one color, you know, keeping the two colors separated to where you can still see them, I just make sure that where the two colors are meeting, that I'm not doing like too much blending there. I'm just kind of like passing the pink into the purple, but I'm not really doing like any circular motions here, because then if I do that, the purple will kind of like move into the pink over here and it'll create like this weird little divider. At least that's happened to me before. Just pass the color over with windshield wiper motions, but I don't really do any like circular motions or like any hard blending where the two colors meet. Oh, and another thing that I could suggest, maybe you guys' colors are running like together because you were only using one brush for like your entire eye look. I mean, I think it's pretty common sense. If I was using pink on this and then dipped it in the purple, the colors are going to mix, especially if you're not wiping off the eyeshadow in between picking up another color. So that's another thing that you can do if you don't have enough brushes to use one for every single color. Just make sure that you're like wiping your brush off on a napkin or a towel. Now they even have something that's called a color switch. It looks like a little sponge. You just swirl your brush in there and it removes the color. Alright, so now I'm going to start in with the black. I'm going in with the black from the same Morphe 39A palette. I'm taking this on a Morphe M507, and I'm just going to start in my outer corner. And I'm going to bring this all the way to the inner corner. So I feel like this is what most of you meant when you asked me how do you, you know, not get the colors from all just running together. And I would say the brush size really matters. If you're using multiple colors and multiple brushes, you really want to make sure that all the brushes aren't the same size. Because of course, if I used this same brush to go in with the black, I'd probably just end up blending the black completely over top of the purple, and there wouldn't be any point to that purple. Just make sure that you are using a smaller brush, again, just so you have more control of where, you know, your second or third colors are going, depending on how many colors you're using. I would say brush size definitely is going to matter. Usually for me, the darker the colors get on my eye, the smaller the brush I will have. You guys seen how big the first brush that I was using was compared to this small tiny one. And then as far as the other people who asked, how do I know when to stop blending? Like just in general, I mean, you kind of just have to go until it looks good, you know? Like there's not a certain amount of minutes that you have to be blending. You know, it's just like until it looks good. And I will say that the more amount of time that you're willing to take and spend, I mean, the better it's going to look. Now I'm going to switch to a fluffier brush. This is a Morphe S21. Again, I mentioned this in my last video. All these brushes I mentioned in my last video. But do you guys see how it just fits like perfectly in your crease? You have nice control of where the color is going. And do you guys see, like, now that I've added this black, it has made, like, the pink stick out where it looks, you know, like, not really blended. So I can just go back with that pink brush. My pressure right here is, like, very light, barely touching my eye. Very, very light. I'm taking another brush to kind of diffuse this up here. This is a Morphe M521. I know in my last video I said I didn't really like the white haired brushes from Morphe, but this is the only one that like didn't fray, and I think I said that in the video. I'm just going back in with the black. So that's another thing you guys asked, is how do I get the colors to show up? And this is what I will kind of do until I'm happy with how opaque it is. I'll just go back and forth with the colors, going with the black, just like you've seen me do, going with the black, and see like, oh, I need some pink here, I need some purple, and I just go in and tweak where it needs color. Just because I started blending the black doesn't mean that I can't go back and add pink. Like, you can go back and add more color. Main thing that I would say is just work with little color at a time. You guys have heard this your whole entire lives. It's easier to fix a small mistake than it is to fix a huge one. The $1,000,000 question that a lot of you asked, and I'm sure all of you want to know, is how do I get a good cut crease, or how do I cut my crease? How do I know how big to cut my crease? So let's see if I can help you out. I like to cut my crease with the same thing that I prime it with, good old concealer. You can cut it with whatever you like, but I like concealer because it's a nice creamy consistency. It's not like thick and chunky, so it's not gonna like stutter across my eye. It's gonna glide nice and smooth and allow me to get a nice, clean, crisp cut crease. So here we go. I'm gonna start with this fat brush, which I didn't mention in my last video. It's a Morphe S4, but it's really nice and big, so it allows me to cut my crease super easy. So let me zoom you guys back in. What I like to do is just put some of that concealer onto my brush. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm just going to set some concealer down like right here in the center of my eye, and then I'm going to look up. Where that line is, that is how high you know you need to go, how big you need to go with your cut crease. Because if you're like me and you have hooded eyes, oh sorry, I said that I was going to cut my natural crease. Well, I will a little bit. Let me show you so you guys could see. Well, first let me tell you, if you're like me and you have hooded eyes, if you just cut your natural crease, it's going to transfer up, which you guys can already see that it literally did. Let me show you. This is like a natural cut crease right here, this little bitty thing. Do you guys see what a big difference this is? Ignore this at the top, but if I just cut my crease there, that's gonna look like boo-boo, you know? Like, if that looks nothing like this. So girl, you gotta exaggerate it, bring it up, bring it out. So that's what we're about to do with it. And I only put it right here on this part, and then it just transferred up. And I mean, if I want to look up some more, it's going to continue transferring, you know, because I have hooded eyes, and that's just how hooded eyes work, I guess. Something else that I would say that you guys need to do is just make sure that you have a nice amount of concealer on your brush, because you want the brush to glide across as easy as possible. So the creamier the product is, the better. And then I just keep sweeping it. Sometimes I even like to just set and pull, set and pull, set and pull. And then I'm going to switch over to this smaller paintbrush that I have, which I did mention in my last video, just to kind of help me get everything exactly how I want it. Do you guys see how this brush just allows for such great precision? So on this side, I didn't bring the cut crease all the way, and I'm just now realizing I left the black there. So I'm just gonna grab some more black eyeshadow real quick. Just stamp it on here. Alright guys, so that's how I get my cut crease. It's really nothing special, but I hope that that's gonna help you out some. So I'm going to be using two palettes from one of my favorite makeup brands today, Juvia's Place. I'm going to be using the Saharan palette and the Masquerade palette. So I'm going to show you right now which shades I'm using from each. From the Saharan, I'm going to be using this pretty color right here. On camera, it kind of looks like a light blue, but in person, it's like a gray, like just pretty shade, which you can kind of see it on my finger a little bit. Let's see if you can see. See how it's like, did I say gray? I mean green. It's like a nice little green, iridescent, so pretty, and it looks so good next to the purple. I'm going to pack that on my first half of the lid. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. And then from the Masquerade palette, I'm going to be using this shade and this shade. So starting with that darker blue on the outer corner next to the black. And lastly, that beautiful royal blue. Then I'll just kind of use my finger to blend those two. When I say two, I mean the lighter green to the royal blue. And to finish off this eye look, I'm just going to blend this black a little bit. To add just some more black in here, I'm going to go in with a very small brush. It's the Morphe S8. It's like an eyeliner brush, I think. Alright guys, that is how I blend. I tried to be really detailed, that way I didn't have to go through and be like, oh, this person asked this, so this is what, you know. I feel like for the most part you guys can at least watch what I did and then try to do it yourself. But if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. Again, I'll leave my social medias listed down below. That way if you want, you guys can inbox me on there as well. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my face, and then I'll be back to finish up the underneath of the eyes. Alright girls, so that does bring us to the end of this video. I was going to show you guys how I do the bottom of my eyes, but I figure I literally show it in every single video and it's the exact same thing that I do on the top. I just bring it down to the bottom. But I really hope that you guys found this video helpful. I hope that I explained enough for you guys. For me, it's pretty simple, so it's kind of hard for me to explain it. So the only way that I know how to explain how to blend is just to express circular motions to you guys. Just be consistent, take it slow. Again, I hope you found this video helpful. If you learned something today, please give this video a big thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I want to ring that bell, that way you don't miss any of my videos, and I hope that I see all of you back on Wednesday. Bye. Mwah.